धर्मक्षेत्रे कुरुक्षेत्रे समवेतायुयुत्सवः।
ओम सहनं भवतु सहनं भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनाधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै. Let us sit together. Let us learn from each other through discussion. Let us sharpen our intellect through discussion. And let us not bear any ill will to each other as discussion.
Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. We talked about Duryodhan last time, Duryodhan perspective, and he sees numbers, he sees names, comes out as a very ambitious, and there is ego, but that ego sometimes is needed in a general or a soldier, which makes you kind of rough and tough and macho. That's the appearance he has there. At the same time, that ego kind of puts a wall so that other people cannot come very close to him. So it also, the same strength that he has acts as a weakness, because he's kind of standing in this midst of all these warriors and great warriors, but he becomes alone because many of those people, like we talked last time, are fighting for him, not with him, and their hearts are, some of their hearts are, or some of them, their hearts are with the Pandavas. Now, in contrast to that, here comes Arjun, and he comes up from outside like a very soft person. He asked his charioteer Krishna and his friend as well, Sakha. Friend and Sakha kind of go, Sakha means friend, to put himself, place his chariot in the middle part where he can see both sides. So he is going there to look at who he is going to fight, who are the parties that are supporting Duryodhan. It's very fascinating that the same scene, same people, same kind of whole atmosphere, the conchs have been blown, the atmosphere of war has been created, and here is Arjun who has a totally different take. I just want to hear you describe what he sees in your view.
Well, to me, the whole scenario is like the story of relative truth and perception. Okay, there is an event, two persons seeing it from two different facets, and how is their interpretation, and it is a reflection of their personality. Okay,
Yeah.
Duryodhan comes there, reviews the formation, talks to his general Drona at that time, and what strikes me, he immediately assesses the situation and kind of gloats that his army is how much bigger, how many more famous generals he has, and all these things. Now, from the general's point of view, or an important person's point of view, if he's looking at his team, he should have done that well before time.
Right.
Right now, he is in the middle of the war. Okay, it's going to happen. His emphasis should be how he is going to plan, what he is going to do, and all that, rather than gloating on what he has. So that blinds him, to me. That's how it appears. On the other hand, Arjun has been a great warrior. He was not a soft character, as you said. He was a big-time archer warrior. Okay, he has won quite a few battles before that, many other competitions. Okay, and he asked Krishna to put the chariot in the middle. To me, that's a metaphor for being right in the middle of the problem.
Right.
Okay. And there, he blows his own conch shell. He is also making all the gesture of making war. And then he sees his teacher, his grandparents, other relatives on the other side. And suddenly, his human values and the righteousness, I shouldn't say righteousness, his compassion, sympathy overtakes him. He's in the middle of the war, but he tries to adopt a pacifist attitude of inertia. And that the pacifist attitude of Arjun leads him to an inertia.
So we will come to that, Amit. I think what you are saying is very important, because whereas Duryodhan sees numbers and names, Arjun sees relatives. He sees uncles. He relates to those people on the opposite side, which is kind of sounds unprofessional for an army, general and soldier and a big warrior like him. So on the one hand, Duryodhan sees them as just numbers and names. He sees them as relatives. So there is some sort of attachment that he develops. And then it affects his whole being, his whole kind of body and mind and soul. But the whole point is that even though Duryodhan sees something in a different way and he stands tall and rough, he somehow loses support. Whereas even though Arjun is perplexed, or Arjun is emotional, he somehow gathers support. And that is, I think, a big game changer. Somehow Arjun is able to gain he has already gathered a lot of support, overt support, like Krishna is driving his chariot, but also soft support that even the people in opposition feel like they should support him.
Well, my take about Arjun is he has been through those negotiations with his cousin Duryodhan and other Kauravas.
Yeah.
Okay, all these and they went to the greatest extent of accepting the contract of having only small 5 villages instead of a kingdom. And they went all through that negation of that contract and everything. When he knows that he is going to go for war, and he knows in the war there is no softness, no inertia, and yet he overcame with all these emotions, all this attachment. Okay, so the war became something terrible for him. He sees the aftermath of it. He describes what the change in the society would be. So both of them do not look at the same event as it is happening. Okay,
Yeah.
they are looking from their emotional point of view. Duryodhan is driven by his revenge and his ego. Arjun, although he was all powerful, although he has some soft support because of his honesty and being on the righteousness, still overcame with inertia. And not only that, he tries to defend it on the basis of his human value. And war is not the place for that.
No, that's a great point. Yeah, I think people listening to us, they will get it now that what you said is that it's not just what is happening right now, but there is a historical journey that Arjun had. And that journey he has been such a character that people loved him or people supported him or people felt connected with him. Whereas whatever Duryodhan's journey was, that was such that people didn't really closely connect with him. I mean, they worked for him, but they did not feel connected close to him. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think so, because the people did not associate with Duryodhan's value system.
Right.
Okay. On the other hand, they did associate with Arjun's righteousness or the Pandavas' righteousness, but they were also quite loyal to Duryodhan.
Yeah.
So it was their conflict.
Yeah, no, I get it. So now I want to come, we are both doctors, and of course, psychology or psychiatry is a different branch than what we practice, but we understand quite a bit of it. What the symptoms that Arjun gets, he's, as you said, is paralyzed, but the symptoms are typical symptoms of panic or anxiety, acute anxiety. I mean, he's trembling,
Yeah.
his mouth is dry, his skin is burning, all these symptoms. And this reminds me of, Amit, I don't know if you remember, there was a pathology class, and somehow one time I did very well in pathology exam, and the professor got me on the stage, and I go to the stage to speak something. I completely froze. All these classmates appeared
vividly
like they
remember
were
that.
strange creatures sitting in front of me.
I vividly remember that, Krishna. That was such a striking phenomenon to me. Okay, I vividly remember. I still remember the name of the professor, Mohanlal.
Oh, okay, yeah, I didn't remember the name of the professor.
Mohan Singh, the professor, in pathology.
And that was not even a war. That was just my own classmates in front of me. And it just froze me. So personally, I can relate as a person to Arjun that the situation kind of was such, and the intensity of his kind of attachment to those people that, oh God, I'm going to kill my guru, or I'm going to kill my cousin. I mean, that kind of must have overwhelmed him. It doesn't sound like a soldier type thing, but what is more fascinating is how Krishna dealt with it. He just let him express, let him just be, let him tremble, let him kind of shake or whatever, and express. He just let him speak before he does anything there. It's not a classic treatment for that in medicine will be remove and restore. And once they are restored, then bring them back or give them some medicine, sedate them. But here, what Krishna has done in the next 17 chapters is just miracle. I mean, it's just phenomenal. I mean, what is your take on that?
Well, to me, it was all stress reaction, which got him completely blanked out of what his objective is and what he is supposed to do. Okay. And as you said, from stress, there was panic.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this is a situation which makes us search through why this happened and how we can overcome it.
Yeah.
Okay. So, from this Vishad or this kind of stressful, sorrowful state, and how he can come out with his potential,
Yeah.
or knowing himself what he can do,
Right.
Krishna just acts as a catalyst to bring him up to that stage, basically. So unless we get into a stressful situation, we do not look at ourselves as critically as necessary. When things are going very good, we become very complacent. On the other hand, a stressful situation brings out the best of us in many a times, and that is not the time that one should cower down.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. So we talked about the physical symptoms, the mental symptoms. Of course, he was confused. There was no clarity in his brain as to what's going on or what should he do. But there is emotional reaction that I want to bring up here, because that happens and has happened in India many times, and probably it happens in our own life. When you face with that situation, he says, "What will I do with this kingdom? What is it worth? It's worth giving up and let Duryodhan have everything." That kind of reaction, without thinking that if Duryodhan becomes, the super king, what kind of havoc he will bring, is not taking that into picture, but becomes withdrawn. That was one of the emotional reaction. I see that in our history in India sometimes, just let it go. Don't have to overreact. Don't have to respond. What happened if, somebody destroyed, some building or a structure? It will all pass over. We can talk about it. So a proportionate response, just because of emotional reaction. And I think in India, at least Indian people they are emotional people. And I'm not kind of criticizing, but some of our historic facts have shown that, this kind of events happen in our life, in our history, other times other than Arjun.
What I get surprised that Arjun went through all the preparation of war, all the negotiation. Okay, he should have had entire idea of the war, and the war involves killing.
Right.
Okay. And previous negotiation, he knows it is a civil war. He's going to fight with his cousins and the people who has taken the side of Duryodhan. This was all known before the war.
Yeah, it was all out there.
All out there. And yet when he sees it, obviously he was not mentally prepared. The reality hits him at this point.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
and
right.
He gets
Exactly.
a panic.
Reality kind of, yeah.
So he gets a panic attack. He gives up. Not only that, he started justifying as a pacifist.
Oh, very intelligent.
Okay.
I mean, the arguments he has given and the logic he has given are superb. I mean,
it is superb if there was not a war. It is terrible when you are right in the middle of a war.
Yeah.
Okay, I heard a saying which says, "No decision is the worst decision."
Right.
Okay, you are in the middle of it. You know that you prepared for it, and yet you want to escape when you are right there. I mean, I can understand the retreat if you are engaged into it, things are not going on your way, then you retreat, regroup, come back, kind of thing. But he just gives up. And that one, for a great archer like Arjun, like a great warrior, that is a phenomenon sometimes happen to all of us.
Yeah.
Okay, and how Krishna would, but not by telling him that you have to do it, kind of thing. He is not making Arjun do that, making Arjun realize why he has to do. Okay?
Yeah, that is the most important part. It's not like telling him what to do. It's like helping him lift up himself and realize what he should do. That's a great point. But one thing I always, you always use the word he, which is intellect. And the intellect is a great tool in my view. And Arjun, in that situation, uses his intellect to justify his reaction. So the intellect is helping him find all those logic that go along with what he wants to do, like give up.
So at that point, they are not relatives. Okay? And in the second chapter, we'll see Krishna tells Arjuna that these people on the side of adharma, these people have done evil deeds. So they are already dead. You are just a cause.
So, no, I understand that, but still, he's sounding very intelligent. His logic that if there is war, men will die, there will be more women, there will be, encouragement for prostitution, there will be, kids born out of wedlock, and all those things that can happen, the ill effects of war, he's bringing up. So he's using his, whatever word you want to say, mind, intellect. You use the word discretion sometimes. So he's probably...
all the time. So his discretion is clouded with his some moha or illusion. Okay? Here his enemies, who is ready to kill him, he's still thinking they're their relatives. His relatives, okay? Relatives are fine, but they can be very harmful relatives too.
Yeah.
Okay? And he doesn't see that way. And he just uses his intelligence and his logic to justify his indolence and inertia.
No, that's a great point, that even in the face of when you are kind of mentally down or confused, conflicted, and of course physically you have all the signs of symptoms of anxiety or acute anxiety, still you are trying to come up with logic to support your state of being there. And I think we all
do.
most of the time do that, not realizing where we are in our mental condition.
Exactly.
And that realization is what I think Krishna is going to bring to him, that where you are is not the right place to be.
And Krishna tells him in the second chapter who he really is.
Yeah.
And from what point, and he should work from that base.
Yeah, Amit, you are sounding like second chapter is going to be really interesting.
So it is one of the best chapters.
One of the best chapters in Gita.
Yep.
And I will agree with you. And that's why, of course, when we get there, we will be talking more about it. But we really interesting that in the first chapter, Duryodhan, even though he's egotistical, but he does come out, stronger, rougher, tougher, it's like good assessment, good evaluation. Whereas Arjun falls apart, even though he's one of the greatest warriors of his time. The emotions or attachment to your whatever you are attached to, I mean your relations or your gurus or your friends, that this bond that he has is kind of pulling him down. And
yes,
if it can happen to a person like that, imagine, does it happen in our lives? I mean, we have to look back and see, does it happen in our life, and
many times,
what can we learn from it?
Many times we have to do certain things and we kind of postpone it, or we kind of sit on it. Okay, it is like that classical ostrich.
Yeah.
Okay, and we think the whole thing will be you will pass away, or but it does not. The problem is there. You think through, you chart your course, and then you have to do what is necessary. At that point, once you are in the middle of it, there is no retreating. Okay, I mean, you and I, we have done surgeries. Okay, I mean, we all read the book, prepared. Then we look back at our experiences, and then I got into the middle of the surgery. We have thought about plan A, B, C. Okay, if this does not happen, that we'll take that course. Okay, and when to quit. Okay, not to proceed because of our big ego, which can harm. So this kind of analysis, this kind of action is necessary. Not only in surgery, it's all over in our lives too. True, we are human beings, but we have to always remind us, it should be at the back of our mind. Okay.
You made a very good point, Amit. In surgery, you should also know when to ask for help. Because Arjun is basically crying for help. He's asking for help. And it so happens that in his case, Krishna was just there.
Yes.
Because one situation, I remember one of the surgeons, I was in the clinic and I was kind of out of nowhere, the CEO calls, or I got a call from, through him to come to OR and help somebody, assist. I said, what's going on? The surgery started early in the morning and now it's more in the afternoon. It was just a gallbladder surgery. What happened? And I go there and the surgeon was just frozen, needed help. And yes, freezing or something happening is, it's not common, but when it happens, ask for help is a great, great way to get out of it. So if you are in a situation, if Arjun is in a situation where he's kind of frozen and completely confused, completely kind of doesn't know what to do, his body is not cooperating. I mean, the Gandiv, that weapon that he holds, the
Sit down.
Bow and arrow, he can't hold on to it. It just slips away from his hand. Yes. This is very unlike Arjun.
Yes.
And good thing that he kind of sits back in the back of the seat. That's the last verse. And kind of hopes that some sort of help comes around.
Yeah, I mean, he has Krishna as his charioteer. Krishna is his friend, and as a matter of fact, a consigliere or a counselor too. So he was fortunate in that respect. He was right at hand. Okay, if there was an ordinary charioteer, could not have been able to pull him out of that. The whole Mahabharata would have been a little bit different. So bottom line is, therefore, as I look at it, if you are undertaking something, look at pros and cons, look at plan A, B, C, when to retreat, what to do, and in the middle of the situation, you have to go through it because you have prepared yourself. You cannot just justify not doing anything, okay? As I said, no decision is a bad decision.
Correct. So, before we finish chapter 1, I think one of the things I just want we should touch is the last pieces that Arjuna uses, the ill effects of war. And the wars, we have seen so many wars happening in our times. Of course, I have not been there, and you have not been there, but India-Pakistan war, currently Ukraine war, Israel-Hamas war. none of these have good stories to tell. So even in those times, I mean, many people, university professors and philosophers, say that Arjun was more right than Krishna. And maybe, the war should have stopped there. So, what is the psychology of war or the destructions? It's not worth it, we know that, but still, why did Mahabharat war happen, or why did Krishna let Mahabharat war happen? I mean,
They,
could he have just given everything to Duryodhan and say, okay, no war? Can
he
you
could have, but
walk through that a little bit before?
sure. I mean, look, the whole Mahabharata, when you read, okay, before the war, they went through entire discussion, analysis, what will happen. I mean, they were trying to get a contract, and that contract was a lot of in favor of Duryodhan rather than the five brothers, Pandavas,
Yeah.
Arjuna and his brothers. They went through all that.
Yeah.
When nothing worked, only then war. So war is justified at that point because the evil at that point has to be stopped. Now, the problem with us and many other societies, we glorify war. So you go and see in different countries, they all glorify a certain war and something like that. Okay, they do not count ill effects. They do not give you the whole analysis. Did they go through the situations? Did they scrutinize and then decide who is righteous, who is not righteous? Obviously, this is from different perspective. But the point is, in our mind, we do glorify war because it's very, very visual.
Yeah.
Okay. Victorious always celebrate the wars.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and they write the history too.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yes, we know the
Go ahead.
don't know the destruction of war, but we still engage it. But Mahabharat's war is a little bit different than other wars. They went through all the analysis and everything beforehand, and then they got into war. So that war is
what
a
you
little
are
different.
saying, if I get it right, it's not so much about the 5 villages that the Pandavas get, but to stop the evil from doing evil.
Yes, that's another thing. Sure.
Because if Duryodhan had the, opposed kingdom, I mean, when he was in a situation where Pandavas existed, he misbehaved with Pandava's wife, Draupadi. But if he has unopposed, what he could do was unimaginable. So he had to be stopped. Like you said, evil had to be stopped. So that also was a main kind of theme, not just what Pandavas could have got.
Yes. Because if you look at Duryodhan and Kauravas, Dushasan's deeds, they did very few good deeds.
Right.
One that stands out, their treatment of Karna.
Yeah.
Okay. But on the whole, they were always revengeful towards Pandavas. Okay.
Yeah, what you said about Karn is he was treated badly in the society and Duryodhan supported him. But some people who analyze it say that he did it because he saw the potential of Karn as an opposite force for Arjun. And that potential he saw, So there was some selfish motive of Duryodhan behind
Sure,
supporting Karna,
sure,
rather than just
sure.
being benevolent.
Yeah, I mean, it was not pure benevolence. He was looking at his own advantage too. I'm glad that you pointed that out.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so he got his guru Drona, who was a great martial art teacher. He got Kripacharya, Bhishma, and all those things, great warriors. Okay, but again, with all these great warriors and their mindset, he didn't take the lesson. He was driven by revenge and ego,
Yeah.
and that caused problem with his discretion. So,
Okay.
in the first chapter, then, one thing stands out to me, that in a stressful situation, our mind, or I should say, unless we get into a stressful situation, our true metal is not awakened.
Right.
Okay, some people. Okay, stress is needed in life. Okay, as Buddhist people say, suffering is a lesson,
Yeah.
not pain. Okay, so unless we get that, we don't wake up. Now, some people get very much paralyzed. They try to defend it by, very nice words, a nice principle, making very human and all that. Fine, but if you are in the middle of it, you have to do what you have to do, and make sure, we have to make sure that we are on the right path. We are not getting a victim of our own revengeful attitude or our ego attitude. So Duryodhan and Arjun, they are looking at the same event in a different ways, but Arjun's situation is how an intelligent and very mighty warrior gets into a stressful situation and how his mind gets clouded too, and he gets into inertia. That's a big thing.
Yeah. I mean, one trick I learned from Osho is if you are in the middle of emotional kind of storm, like your anger or what happened to Arjun, like, you feel acute anxiety. If you can you stand outside and look at yourself? It's not easy because you are so engrossed in it that you don't want to get out of it. But if you can get out, that observer part, and then watch all this thing happening to you, that's a therapeutic. I have found it therapeutic
Actually,
personally.
it has been mentioned many places. Okay,
Yeah.
look at your mental status as an outside observer,
Yeah.
and that's why you will see many people say, okay, all this is thing happening, you concentrate on your breathing, slow down your breathing, because when you are in the stressful situation, our breathing gets very fast and irregular. So control your breathing and make it very, very symmetrical. Okay, so the attention goes from the problem to the breathing, or you move yourself out of the situation mentally and look at the whole problem. You get a global view and see how your reaction is. So this is a part of stress management, and we should practice. You will see a lot of people who get into stress, they will punch the wall and all that. I mean, what?
Yeah, that's expression. That is kind of manifestation. That some people feel that, if you get out frustration, pillow beating, and that. And I went to a 7-day retreat, and that was one of the practices they did. I don't know how much it really gets out rather than it builds up, but it does help some. You feel a little lightened because you have punched the pillow. But I find this standing outside, which is, as I said, when you are in the middle of it, it's not easy. But if you can, it's a great, great experience.
Definitely, definitely.
And it works for me.
Yeah, it works for anybody who tries to do that.
Yeah.
When you become observer of this whole situation, yeah, okay, and you are not deeply into it, your mental aberrations and all the waves and everything, that kind of quietens down. Actually, Arjun asked Krishna in later on one of the chapters, Chanchalam Hemana Krishna, the mind is so so disturbed most of the time. Okay, how do we control it? So anyway,
Yeah, that is a real gem, that that sloka that you mentioned. But we'll come to it definitely.
yeah, we will see.
Yeah.
So it is nice to go over this chapter, because this chapter, most of the people think it is descriptive, but to me it is not descriptive. It sets up the situation, talks about the emotional state, what we should do and how we should gradually prepare ourselves. And if we get a good suggestion by our own selves or our surrounding, yes, take it and carry on.
Yeah, Amit, to be honest, I mean, just talking with you about this first chapter from beginning to now, it has been so educational for me myself. And I think first chapter is, as we said in the beginning, is the foundation. And, just looking at the different personalities, how they view the same scene differently with the different glasses, and what effect it has on you.
Exactly.
It's like one way you can get pumped up, the other way you can kind of get paralyzed. And this is all in the first chapter. And
Yes.
good thing that Arjun got paralyzed. Now we have Gita.
धर्म क्षेत्र और कुरुक्षेत्र में मन को मोह का शूल मिला है।